Let's look at Auckland Central. I've got Dave Cormack, who was a Green Party Policy Director, and Sue Bradford, who was an MP with the party for many years. Now, 410 seats ahead, 410 votes ahead for Chloe Swarbrick. She's looking pretty good in Auckland Central.
This is a staggering result, and I think it's actually almost a bloody nose for Labour on a night when they have just overwhelmingly dominated across the board. And Auckland Central has been a Labour seat, like it's been a national held seat recently, but it's been a Labour stronghold. And we've seen this almost insurgency campaign from Swarbrick.
Have a look at it. What have we got in the vote counted there? 93% of the vote counted there. Big result for the Greens. And it wouldn't have been since Jeanette Fitzsimons won the Coromandel that the Greens would have had an electorate seat if she can hold on to that.
That's right. It's a really significant moment for the Greens if they can hold this. And I think this is the one electorate where Labour voters have actually swung and put some Labour in that seat have put their votes to Chloe because they're inspired by that younger voice, the Green voice. And it's a real turn-up. The Greens will really boost their morale hugely.
Do we think
to finally have a seat again?
Do we think that was partly because they were worried that the Greens may ditch under 5?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, it was just like in 99 when Jeanette Fitzsimons. You probably don't remember that election.
Oh, I just look younger than I am.
I'll never forget it. But that was the year we thought the Greens hadn't made it and ended up.
I do, and he got there on the specials, but she won in 99.
7 MPs and a seat, and so this will be a really historic moment for the Greens to get a seat again. So kia ora to all the people involved with that campaign. But I think also significant because the number of likely traditional Labour voters who came over to vote for Chloe.
She's massively overperformed her party vote. It's a remarkable achievement in this night where it's just a sea of red.
Yeah. Now, some interesting stuff that sort of stems off that. We often talk about the Greens underperforming on the day, and the classic cliche is, the Green voters don't get out of bed, and all the implications of that they don't get out and vote on that on that day. But they have overperformed in terms of the polls.
Yeah, quite remarkably. And look, it's no secret that I'm a Green voter and I get out of bed a lot. So I don't necessarily think that holds true. But I think the other thing this puts in play is the cannabis referendum. We saw that the no vote looked comfortably ahead, but this utter surge to the left suggests that maybe the cannabis referendum is back in play. I mean, we're not going to know for a couple of weeks, but there are some massive consequences from this.
Yeah, just so people are on the same page, we won't get an indicative result till the 30th of October and then an official result, I think, on those referenda on the 6th of November. But Sue Bradford, does this also play, listening to David there, that there may have been more of a turnout with younger voters, do you think?
Oh, absolutely. I think this having the 2-week polling period and people seeing on TV that young people like them are going out and voting, I think it's been great for democracy. This massive, I believe, we don't know the final stats yet, but what appears to be a big increase in the vote, and I think a lot of that will be with young people, which hopefully will help with the vote yes on cannabis, as well as obviously keeping the Greens up. They actually were polling on 8%, so they are around the poll.
Around where they were.
Yeah.
Okay, so what does it mean for both of you? Obviously, both largely Green supporters, you'd be happy to have your party in there. But what will they be able to achieve with these numbers? What would you be doing strategically to try and make the most of this vote when you've got this red behemoth sitting next to you?
Yeah, so I'm on record as saying I really didn't want Labour to get a majority and I wanted the Greens to be needed, and that obviously doesn't look like it's going to actually be the case. And so if I was the Greens, I'd be thinking very carefully about whether or not they actually want to get into this tent, or if they maybe want to stay confidence supply potentially, but stay and be the left opposition, because I think that Labour has shown a reluctance to actually go truly left, and so the Greens need to pull them that way, and they're more likely to be able to do that by being antagonistic.
So not in the executive, is that what you're saying?
Well, I don't even think they'll really get the option, to be honest. I'd be surprised if they did, and I would think very carefully about whether or not I'd even take it if offered.
Sue?
I have to say I agree with that. I find it unlikely that the Greens will want them inside the tent. The Labour will want the Greens inside the tent. They never really have. They've never been keen on the Greens. They prefer, and now they've got absolute power. I can't imagine why they would bring the Greens in, except as a way of spiking them, really, to keep them quiet, to have some kind of confidence in supply or other agreement.
You can imagine James Shaw would want to hold on to a ministerial portfolio,
yes,
wouldn't he?
I think that's a big danger that the Greens face now. That there's always that huge desire you have to have a ministerial post, even outside cabinet, to have some influence on policy. That desire is always there, but against that is they'll absolutely be powerless. They'll just be used as a whipping boy, as an excuse by Labour for things, without having any real power. And they would be much more powerful if they choose to stand right outside and be a really left opposition and really critiquing and challenging Labour from a transformative left and ecological perspective, which they could do, but they may not end up with any choice anyway if Labour just simply doesn't give them the options. But if Labour was clever, they probably would try and bring them inside.
And
big if.
Yeah, and that has to play out with the membership buy-in too, does it not? I mean, you can't, as far as I understand, the tikanga of the party, it doesn't just go out there and do its own thing. It has to go back to the membership.
Yeah, it has to be ratified by the membership, any agreement that they have, and who knows what the membership will be feeling. You know, they've had 3 years of the Greens being in government and being a good support party, and I think the Greens campaign strategy has been really interesting, where historically minor parties have tried to distance themselves from their bigger brothers. The Greens have actually hugged Labour and said, look, we were part of a really succeeded some good stuff with them, and they've been rewarded at the polls in a night when Labour has utterly dominated. But the terrible thing is that they might get burnt for that as a result.
Yeah, so how far are you guys going on this? Do you think that they could even not give confidence in supply and actually be in opposition and vote against the government?
Well, that would be the strongest position the Green Party could take at this time, far stronger than anything else they could do. And be there in question time every day, critiquing on every select committee, looking, trying to do everything they can to show a different path. I have no little faith in Labour being transformational at all, especially with the absolute majority they're going to have.
All right.
They need someone in the House challenging them every step of the way and putting up better policy. And that's what the Greens could do.
All right, we'll come back to that. Corin, you've got more on this?
Yeah, we're going to go down to Green headquarters now with Charlie Drever, our reporter, just to find out what's going on down there. Things are starting to wind up a little bit. Or is the party still going? Charlie?
The party is still going. You've just missed a dance circle before. The mood here is absolutely electric. People are stoked, with 95% of the vote counted and Chloe looking to nab that central Auckland electorate. People here have just been dancing, they've been hugging, they've been chanting Chloe, they've been chanting Go the Greens, and I've been speaking to some of the candidates who at this stage could be getting a seat in Parliament, and they're just so excited. Everyone's trying not to get their hopes up, especially Ricardo Menendez, who's number 10 on the list. He's trying not to get his hopes up, but he's feeling pretty excited. And just the whole atmosphere here is just one massive party.